NASCAR Cup Series race. Here are your hosts, Kevin Batstone, NASCAR Sky, and Jeff Davis.
Welcome back, race fans, to another great episode of Mash the Gas podcast. I'm Jeff Davis. Joining me shortly is Mr. Kevin Batstone and NASCAR Sky. We're here to cover the Toyota Save Mart 350 from wine country, Sonoma Raceway. And hey, Sky, who mashed the gas this weekend?
You can't give it to anyone else besides SVG. I mean, he absolutely dominated, won the pole, and won stage 2 by pitting right before the end of the stage, which was pretty crazy. Come back and beat Kyle Larson there for the stage win. Pretty impressive since he didn't have any real Cup Series experience at Sonoma beforehand. I mean, he was going up against people like Kyle Busch, who has over 2,000 laps at the Cup level there, and a few other guys. So SVG, absolute clinic, mashed the gas the hardest.
Just impressive to watch. I mean, he was my pick last week, obvious coming in, favorite. I mean, the Xfinity race was fantastic, the battle with him and Connor Zilic. But, you know, SVG, just that advantage that he has, a 10th here, a 10th there, every lap, it adds up. He's so good on restarts. He's just so quick, and he's clean. He's not really nudging guys out of the way. You know, he had some really clean battles there with the 19 and Chase Briscoe, who I thought ran a fantastic race. Chase Elliott was coming hot there at the end. But, I mean, look, SVG is on fire right now. Won 3 out of the last 5 races. He's now the 3 seed going into the playoffs. There's a chance here, guys, a real chance that he could take the 1 seed. If he goes out and wins Watkins Glen and we don't see another win out of Denny, Larson, or Seabell, SVG could be seeded number 1 going into this playoffs.
I mean, how crazy is it that just like a month ago we were, looking at SVG and it's like, hadn't had a win yet. And now, yeah, like you said, man, he's in P3 as far as the playoffs go, 17 playoff points. I mean, it's crazy to see how he did through the beginning of the year. But yeah, he's on fire right now. And he just had a killer race. And that was a good pit strategy, like Sky talked about, where he pitted, came back out. He was in P2. Kyle Larson just didn't have the tires to hold him up, and SVG passed him up and got those playoff points. So, yeah, congratulations to him.
How often do you see that? I mean, we see guys flip the stage all the time. That's classic, right? Because they're going for the win. But to come out there with that big of a lead, right? To come in, take fresh tires, get back on the racetrack, and run down the 5. I mean, I think Steve Letarte called it with 2 to go in the stage. He's like, "Oh, Larson's going to win this thing. Great, great call by them. They're going to get the stage point, this and that. Oh, hang on, here comes SVG." So the guy's unbelievable. He's definitely turning a lot of heads, and I think we really need to focus on his oval program. He knows that. He's tired of hearing everybody hate on him about the ovals. And Dover's going to be a tough place for him to get back on track. But all in all, Sky, I thought Sonoma was tremendous. I think it proves why it's one of the staples of NASCAR road course racing and should always be on the series. We've gone there for 36 years. And another crazy stat, I mean, he now ties Jeff Gordon for 3 wins from the pole on a road course. Just incredible.
I mean, yeah, he's absolutely killer. I think that, he very much can make an argument to be like one of the best ones we've ever seen in NASCAR, best road racer. He's just absolutely phenomenal. And he's just so much better than all of the guys that we kind of look towards weekend when we go to these type of races like Chase Elliott and Michael McDowell and Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick. I mean, they're amazing road racers, but then he's just so much better than them. So he definitely deserves his flowers. There's a lot of discourse over social media on whether or not they keep adding all these road courses, whether, a lot of fans are starting to hate it because he's dominating, but I think it's one of those cases where you just hate who's winning. So if it was a Chase Elliott out there winning, I'm sure the fan base would feel very different. So I don't think there's anything wrong with what he's doing. I don't know how well it'll fare for him in winning a championship per se, but I mean, yeah, collect those wins where you can.
Yeah, and we've been talking a lot about the playoffs as far as changing the format, and I know it's been a lot in social media. It's the buzz is going on, and they might do it next year or not. But with him, with the 3 wins that he has right now, and where he stands, and overall performance with points and everything, I mean, he could be up there, right up in the top 5 if it was back like the Winston Cup or the Next Hill Series. So, he's really kicking ass right now. So, yeah, you really do. It's hard to look at anyone else on these road courses anymore other than SVG. Sky's pick last week, Michael McDowell. I mean, I had him in my lineup and I thought he was going to win the race but he still got a top 5. I mean, he finished P4, but I took him out because he started around P17, somewhere right around there. And so I was like, yeah, kind of iffy on him. Put in Chase Elliott, which was still a good pick. But, Michael McDowell, he's just been killing it on the road courses this year, too. Just hasn't quite got that chance to take the W. But I wanted to get your thoughts, you guys, on what happened on pit lane when Brad Keselowski pit crew literally got into it with Ty Gibbs pit crew, because Ty Gibbs when he pitted, he came in so hot and so like right down the number six's lane, literally clipped the tire for the front tire changer. I don't know. People are calling for penalties, but I don't think NASCAR is going to give it out.
Yeah, and I don't think that after further review that there should be a penalty here. I mean, it's right on the razor thin line. Ty pretty much knew his situation. He said in the post race, I'm the lead car, so I have the preferred lane coming in. You're allowed to go through 2.5 pit stalls to get your car to get a good angle into the pit stop. And it was just one of those odd timing things because obviously the six, those guys were trying to come over the wall to pit their guy that was coming in right behind. The conspiracy was, well, the 17, Chris Buescher, shipped him down into turn 11, so now Ty's pissed and he's going to get back at Keselowski. I could see where there could be a story to be made there, but after hearing Letarte and Junior kind of break it down and seeing that overhead bird's eye view there, Sky, I think it's just boys have at it out there. Tempers got a little flared. The pit crew got into it, and I think we just got to move on from it.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be any penalties. I watched Eric Easep's video. He posted some screenshot, or he took screenshots of both his stage one entry and his stage two entry. Were both under green with a six behind him. And the second time where he was close, I mean, it was a complete different entry. So I could see him. I mean, he's had issues on pit row before. I could see his tempers flowing. I think it was just, yeah, boys be boys. It was kind of like it's not really a rule per se, but it's more of a respect thing, maybe among like an unspoken rule. And maybe he kind of crossed that line a little bit, but I don't see penalties or anything. But I hope that these drivers remember, but these guys that are coming out on pit road, they don't have that much protection. That's the only thing I worry about. I would hate to see somebody get seriously injured, but I don't know. I don't see NASCAR cracking down on it.
No, I don't think they will either. I mean, he is right. He had the preferred lane. It's just scary because, like you said, these guys are unprotected and they're coming in at almost 55 miles an hour. That would be a hard lick to take if you actually took someone's leg out or something like that. And I did read some of the stuff about Chris Buescher and the kind of the hoopla there with maybe as a payback for that. But what do you guys think about Ryan Blaney getting shoved off into the dirt by by Chris Buescher? In a separate incident, and then Bubba Wallace spins. So I thought that was on lap 62, I believe. But Blaney, I know he was really hot on the radio. He was pretty pissed off.
Yeah, and that's another one of those deals. I mean, I do think Buescher drove it a little bit too hard up the hill there, just crossed the start finish line, but it looked like he just got loose. I mean, those guys were side by side. Blaney didn't do anything wrong. He gave Buescher plenty of room. I just think it was all take, no give. And yeah, unfortunately, the 17 got a little sideways there. And that could have been really bad, guys. I mean, that was about 10 feet away from a head on impact into a concrete wall, which I still don't understand why we wouldn't have a safer barrier there. But fortunately, he was able to high center it. Really no harm, no foul to the 12, other than it ruined his day. And so, Buescher was pretty aggressive out there for sure. If you're Blaney, you're pissed. Is it worthy of a payback? We'll see. I mean, I don't think there's enough to prove it was an intentional wreck by any means, but I think it was uncalled for sure.
It's tough because I feel like Blaney, he's got that Penske in him. He's very aggressive all the time. He takes what he can and he's like, this is my job. It's what I do. But I feel like, when you do that, you get this sort of reputation with other drivers who then are gonna race you hard all the time as well. And I think that's kind of what happened. Chris Buescher was just pushing really hard. And Blaney always goes off on the radio all the time. He's like the new Kurt Busch, honestly. He posted on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to say. Somebody was kind of going off about how Blaney always runs his mouth and never does anything. But I thought it was pretty cool that he responded to the tweet and just said that he was raised different, that he's not about wrecking, that he likes to just get it out in the moment. It makes him feel better, Then it's kind of like, all right, reset, let's go back from there. I thought that was very mature of him, very, very veteran.
Yeah, I'm sure he's learned an awful lot, from his dad, Dave, and he's always been in the racing family. So, I think he's got a great attitude. I've always loved Ryan Blaney. He's one of my favorite drivers out there. But another thing that I was kind of thinking about, we've talked a lot about Carson Hocevar this year, and with 3 to go, Josh Berry, turns into Carson, and they were battling into eighth. No caution came out of it, which we see a lot on road courses. Obviously, there's enough time to turn around, but kind of ruined his day. He could have had a better finish.
Well, I mean, Hocevar was having a terrible day to begin with. I mean, he was back there at P36, P37 for a while. just completely off. The car was just not handling right. They brought it down pit road a couple of times, got shuffled back there. A couple guys were back there, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, just having a real tough go of it. And we're finally able to catch some cautions, flip the stages a little bit, get up there, stay out, go against the strategy. And then Hosfire was running for a top five. And then all of a sudden the 21 said, well, I'm just going to clean you out up the hill into one. And then that kicked up all the dirt and the debris. And we saw the 23 go around, the 11 spun. A lot of chaos going up through, that kind of blind hill there on turn one. Once again, just amazed me how clean SVG and even the 19 of Briscoe were able to get through there, where we saw so many guys getting loose, getting into the sand. So a lot of chaos going up that hill.
And right before that, we even saw, speaking of Ryan Blaney again, Kyle Larson, got a little help from John Hunter Nemechek there, and then Larson clipped Ryan Blaney. So I mean, Blaney just had a bad day, in my opinion, and so did Larson. I mean, he was climbing up there. He didn't have too good of a day. He just couldn't. His engine just couldn't hold up, I don't think. I mean, he was just dropping spots left and right, starting from the beginning of the race. So, unfortunate for Kyle Larson and Brian Blaney.
Definitely bad days for both of them for sure. On the flip side of some good days, Ty Gibbs finished in the top 10. He finished 7. We have given him a lot of flack on here throughout the season just because he was not getting very good finishes early on, but he's starting to, that team seems like they're getting it together, which is very good on them. On the flip side, though, I've been meaning to bring this up and I forget it every week, but I wanted to talk about Gragson because this is his, third year, I think, in the Cup Series. Finished 37th at Sonoma. I think he got spun there. But he is not having a good season. I don't know if it's, switching teams or what's going on, but he's had one top 5, and that was at Talladega, which you know how Talladega is. 5 DNS, average finishing position of 24th. I don't know. How are you guys feeling with Noah Gragson? I'm very unimpressed right now.
Yeah, and I think there's probably a lot more than we realize, obviously, with this Haas Animation team, losing this Tony Stewart and just kind of being this one funded team. Obviously, they have a little bit of an Xfinity affiliation as well. But as far as Noah goes, I mean, I think he's doing everything he can. We don't see the speed in practice and qualifying. He gets caught up in a lot of messes. I've seen him make some pretty aggressive moves. But at the same time, I mean, he got turned there coming through 3A. He got wrecked there. He got wrecked coming through turn 7. So he was just getting bounced around like a ping pong ball, like a lot of those guys out there. But overall, on the season, I would say the 4 has been a huge disappointment. I didn't have a huge expectations for him in that Ford camp this year, but I would agree, Sky. I think he's way off, and those guys have a long way to go if they want to even be remotely close to being a top 20 in point contender.
I just don't see it in the cards. I really don't. I mean, he's a decent driver, but the equipment now is just not as good as it used to be. But yeah, I'm not impressed at all. But as far as this race itself, who I am impressed with is definitely Joe Gibbs Racing overall as an organization. I mean, to have Chase Briscoe coming in P2 and Seabell coming in P5, like Sky mentioned, Ty Gibbs actually coming in the top 10, getting to P7. It's kind of weird when you say out of the whole Joe Gibbs camp that Denny Hamlin had the worst day, finishing P20. But compared to some of the other teams, I think they're the ones that had the best day. I mean, Hendrick didn't have a very good day. Penske definitely didn't have a very good day. Poor Austin Cindric coming in P30 and Ryan Blaney P36. So Joey, well, he came in, he got a top 10 out of it at least. He got a P9. So overall, definitely the Gibbs camp had the best day.
Yeah, for sure. I think those guys can build off of it. A lot of momentum. Great race drivers too. I mean, I think this is a good opportunity for Ty Gibbs, like you were mentioning, this guy, to kind of steer the ship in the right direction, start building up some momentum. He's got a little bit more confidence now. They're showing up with fast race cars. So, great day for those Joe Gibbs Toyotas, and obviously, the Trackhouse Chevy of SVG is the happiest. But hey, we got to give a huge nod here, guys. Our boy Ty Dillon is still alive in the bracket challenge, getting around Alex Bowman on the final lap of the race. He run him super hard going into turn 11 to bump him out of the way to take this position. Ty Dillon is still alive. He's going the distance.
That is the best storyline to come out of this entire thing. I absolutely love that for him because I always liked him compared to Austin Dillon. I thought that Ty Dillon, I don't want to say he has more talent because they're not really in comparable equipment all the time, or they haven't been throughout their careers. So I don't know. I like Ty Dillon, and I like to see him go all the way.
I want to see him go the distance. He's come this far now. He knocked out Denny Hamlin in the first round, and now we're down to 4 in this bracket, right? So he goes head to head against John Hunter Nemechek going into Dover this week. I mean, I think you got to give a little bit of advantage to John Hunter in that Toyota, but who knows? Ty has found a way to get this done. And on the flip side of the bracket, we got Tyler Reddick versus Ty Gibbs, which that's going to be a battle. No matter who wins that, I think it's going to be the favorite going into Indy. But we're down to four, and did not have either of these four in my bracket, so no wonder mine was busted week one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone's was busted week one. It was such a mess. It was, to me, that's such a NASCAR thing to happen. They try to hype this bracket up, they do this whole thing, and it ends in like that first race. Like that just screams NASCAR to me.
I mean, how crazy would it be to see either John Hunter Nemechek or Ty Dillon actually win the whole bracket? I mean, that is just like insane when you look at all the drivers out there and have, if it were to happen, one of those two, and there's a darn good chance that it could happen. Yeah, that would blow my mind. So it'd be pretty damn cool to see either one of them actually.
I only see it happen if there's a mechanical failure. Yeah, because whoever makes it to Indy, whether it's John Hunter Nemechek or Ty Dillon, one of those two are going to be in the final. You're going up against some of the best equipment. It's either going to be 23XI or Joe Gibbs Racing, which we just got done mentioning are on fire right now. So it's going to take a wreck. It's going to take a mechanical failure. So you're going to have to capitalize on someone else's bad day. I just don't see John Hunter Nemechek or Ty Dillon going into Indy and outrunning straight up by performance. I just don't see it happen. It's going to take a miracle.
Definitely, I agree. But Ty Dillon, he worked for his spot there at the end against Alex Bowman. I mean, he worked really hard. I was pretty impressed by him. I did also want to say I'm a stats girly. I like to look at the stats into things, and this is actually Chase Briscoe's first top five at a road course in his Cup career. And back when he was in Xfinity, I feel like he was kind of known as a road course racer. So I'm glad to see that for him.
Yeah, there was a lot that went into that with the 19 of Martin Truex Jr. last year, because he came into this weekend going, this is my absolute worst road course, just terrible. But we know that the 19 has had a lot of success in Sonoma. And so they kind of piggybacked off of some of the notes that they had with Truex, got into the simulator a little bit, kind of looked at how Truex drove this racetrack, and it obviously paid huge dividends. Denny Hamlin was talking about this on Actions Detrimental today about why there was such vast difference between Chase and the 11, being that they're in the same stable. And a lot of that just had to do with just that driver notes, car setup, all that played into it. So I think we can kind of tip your hat to Truex and what he left behind for this team to kind of groom and get Chase Briscoe dialed in for this race.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You look at Martin Truex Jr. and all the wins that he's had there and all the notes that they've got there. Just had a lot of data there for him. But like Sky mentioned, it's cool to see that. I didn't know that stat that this is his first top five in the road courses. So really good job there. But one thing I was thinking about too, with Trackhouse Racing, obviously getting P1, and then Daniel Suarez getting P14, and then Ross Chastain with the P24. We had that incident where the 99 ran right into the back of the one car and really didn't give him any respect. And I think is it because he knows he's not coming back to Trackhouse next year? I mean, it was just an interesting situation.
I think there's an argument to be made there, but I also think there's an argument to be made that he just overdrove turn 11. We saw it happen a lot yesterday. Guys stacking up and just overdrove turn 11 and were punting guys out of the way. We saw it with Busher and Ty Gibbs, but there's possibility that these guys are not going to race each other the same way, knowing that, hey, I'm not here next year no matter what happens. So what are they going to do? They're going to fire me early. If I'm Daniel Suarez, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to run hard, not intentionally wreck guys, but you might run them a little bit harder knowing I'm not coming back to this stable next year. We saw it happen in the Xfinity level, with Austin Hill and Sheldon Creed back when they were running together, and that caused for major turmoil over there. So that could be a storyline.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We also don't know if Daniel knows where he's going or if there's any avenue there. But if not, I mean, the rest of the season is kind of broadcasting who he is as a driver or whatever, as to all these other teams to say like, hey, like, I need a ride, I need somewhere to go. So if I was him, I would just race, screw teammates at this point. I'm racing everybody hard. I'm trying to get wins. I'm trying to get, do these amazing performances so that one of these other teams want to pick me up.
That's exactly it. He's got to run as hard as he can so he can find a spot if there is a spot available. We don't know what's going to happen next year. We're starting to get into that silly season, as we call it, where there's people coming and people going with certain teams. So I like Daniel Suarez. He's got a great attitude, and he's a great guy. Just the Mexico City win that he got in the Xfinity Series was pretty much, I thought, kind of would have helped him out. So I was really surprised when they parted ways or announced that they were going to part ways. So, I hope the best for Daniel Suarez in the 99 car and see what he has to do next year.
Yeah, and who knows, Jeff? That could have come before that win. You know, these contract negotiations go well into play before the general public knows about it, and sometimes the driver even finds out when we're finding out. So it's hard to say which way that they wanted to go there. But I think we talked about it a little bit last week, and kind of the buzz is that Connor Zilisch is the front runner to go in to that 99 car next year, and I think that's a great pick. I mean, Trackhouse is going to beef up with two road course hot shots and the Watermelon Man. I mean, that's going to be a hell of a stable if that's the angle they decide to go. Because once again, I mean, Connor Zilisch drove his ass off in that Xfinity race on Saturday to be able to keep pace with SVG, make passes, clean passes, and go out there and beat SVG. That's a big, big statement on a big stage.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I was thinking about that too. I actually wrote it in my notes about how interesting it'll be if, Zillage is the one to fill the 99 on road courses next year. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, are any of the guys that we look for that I mentioned earlier, the Seabells, the Chase Elliott, people like them, are they gonna do anything about this? Or we're just gonna let, SVG come through and just win everyone and then next year have a rookie essentially come in and win everyone? Like these drivers gotta, I mean, they have access to data, the same data, that SVG is sharing and has, and someone's got to do something different. Someone's got to figure it out before they're just getting dominated week in, week out by Trackhouse at these road courses.
That's going to be tough to do. SVG is so good, coming in at his age, I think he's 38 years old. A lot of guys are actually retiring from NASCAR at this age. So to see him come in here and just be able to dominate like that, I think is just incredible. So, SVG is good to go. But another thing I want to talk to you guys a bit about was 23XI and Front Row Motorsports. And, they lost their appeal to, the U.S. Court of Appeals, denied them being able to fight this pretty much. I mean, the injunction expires in 2 days on July 16th. So these teams could lose their charter status starting with this coming weekend at Dover.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of. I was literally just getting done listening to what Denny was saying about it, and Denny has to be careful because he's in litigation, so he can't tell the public too much. But I did catch that 23XI has put a restraining order against NASCAR, which is kind of interesting when you look at what that could potentially mean. And essentially, what they're saying is they don't want these NASCAR officials in the shop. Obviously they can't have a restraining order against them at the racetrack itself, but this thing could get pretty nasty. Now, of course, that goes to the next question. If this thing were to go that way and these guys lose their charters, is this a situation where these drivers would not be playoff eligible? Would they not be able to make a race? There's still a lot of what ifs there, but Denny seemed pretty confident that no matter what happens here, they're going to have cars at the racetrack.
Well, according to Bob Pockris, I was reading up on, I saw one of his things on Twitter where he's talking about it. And he said, if they don't have charters, they are not guaranteed in any race, even if it is the playoffs. So that would be really, really unfortunate if that's the case. So hopefully it's not.
It's unfortunate that it's going this way. I mean, I feel like the teams come from a good place. I didn't see too much. I did see about the restraining order. I didn't get to read too much into it, but I don't know. I wish NASCAR would just, it's so hard because these teams, they need more money. Like, I mean, Hendrick Motorsports doesn't make any money. That's the craziest thing to me. You think like Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, sports most popular driver. Kyle Larson, who's probably has the biggest name in NASCAR right now. Like, they're not making any money. I don't know. NASCAR needs to do something different.
Yeah, he makes most of his money as far as Kyle Larson. He's the number one merchandise guy out there right now so far this year. But, when you talk about the not having a charter team, those guys get about a fifth less, or actually 4/5 less, about 80% less than the other teams that do have charter teams. And you look at this weekend at Sonoma, the Cup race itself had an $11 million total purse split between 37 cars. Of course, anyone who's the charter team gets a higher payout from the cut that NASCAR gives them. So, it is tough. And it's, if it turns into something like that, or look at the Xfinity race, the total purse there was only 1.6 million. It's hard for these guys to make money. So you have to rely on stuff, like you said, Sky, the merchandise, talking about how someone like Chase Elliott and then Ryan Blaney and, Joey Logano, some of these guys that have big names, they make a lot of money off the merch. But as far as payouts, yeah, these guys need to be making some more money to keep these teams afloat. Because, I mean, unless you've got money like Rick Hendrick and own a bunch of car dealerships, or like Penske owning all the moving trucks and IndyCar and everything like that, it's really hard to stay afloat when you're an underfunded team.
Well, absolutely. And we know Michael Jordan and Danny Hamlin are not hurting for money, but that's that's not really the way this thing works. This is a business, and these guys are entitled to be paid. Now, my concern is how distracting is this for the guys at the shop? We've mentioned Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace being a little bit off this year. Now you add a lot of this, extra pressure and restraining orders and all the media attention from it. How distracting is that when you're only 6 races away from the playoffs? I mean, these guys have got to get out there and win a race. That is the most important priority right now, controlling what they can control. And now you've got all this extra hoopla out there. I just wonder what that's going to do to these drivers, crew chiefs, and teams over these next 6 weeks.
I mean, that's what makes a champion. You got to keep it together and go out and do what you're meant to do. So I I don't know how much I don't know. I wasn't it a few weeks ago that Corey Heim didn't make a race, like he got like didn't qualify or something, or someone qualified in over him.
Yeah, I believe that was Chicago. Catherine Legg got in over him. Yep.
Yeah, that and he. Sorry, I'm like blanking, but he's the other car at front or at 2311. Yeah, that's not a good sign, right? I mean, if this has already happened and now they're about to lose their charter, I mean, I would definitely be worried if I was those drivers.
There's definitely cause for concern here, for sure. We're just going to have to see because we're not getting all the details. We're not going to see all the legal jargon. Like I said, Denny was able to give us a little bit of tidbits here and there, until we really see this thing play out. It could get pretty nasty. I mean, could it get to the point, like Jeff, you were saying, they're not guaranteed anything. So if, Reddick goes out and wins Dover this weekend and then all of a sudden, misses the Glen or can't run the first race of the playoffs at Darlington, he's automatically eliminated from championship contention. So if that starts to be the case, this thing could get pretty ugly. And by the sounds of it, Jeff, it might be headed there.
We hate to see that for our sport. I mean, NASCAR has got one of the best fan bases, and NASCAR is also, as far as drivers and organizations and the tracks, you have so much more access to go see your favorite driver or meet your favorite driver, more interaction with these guys. I mean, it's like a family sport. You go to a football game, baseball game, basketball, whatever. You're sitting in the seats. Hockey, you're behind the glass. You can kind of get up front, but it's not like you're going to sit there and be able to shake hands, get an autograph, or just say a little hi to them or anything like that. So it would be really unfortunate to see, the ugliness that's going on right now with the lawsuit. And I don't know anything about that restraining order either, Kevin. I'm gonna have to look into that. But it's I don't know what to say about it. It's just shitty.
It is. It is. And it's coming at a bad time of the year, like I said, with 6 races to go to the playoffs. But I mean, that's just the way it goes. Litigation gets nasty when there's a lot of money and big corporations like this, and NASCAR is trying to protect its position, and they have the resources to do so. I'd be pretty concerned, if I was 23XR front row. This is definitely, it's not going away. That's for sure. I mean, they're basically just volleying back and forth with this appeals court at this point. And, I'm not a legal expert by any means, but if they don't get this straightened out pretty quick, Scott, I think it's going to really start distracting the narrative as we get close to the playoffs.
I agree 100%. And these drivers, Bubba, he's on the cut line. He's only +3 right now over top of Priest. So, I mean, that he's really got to kick it into gear. And same with Reddick. I mean, we've said all year that Reddick's been unlike himself. But, I have a good feeling about Reddick going into Dover. I mean, he's kind of good at those tracks. So, I don't know. We'll have to see.
Dover's going to be interesting. I love Dover, the Monster Mile. I was there in 2014, got to see Jeff Gordon win there. Great racetrack, great facility. Always puts on kind of a unique experience, that concrete mile, high speed, high banks. I think Denny Hamlin is definitely an early favorite I'm looking at. He's always confident going into Dover, and again, going back to this playoff picture here, this is what really matters. And again, I think there's a pathway here, barring that if Denny, Larson, or Seabell does not get another win over the next 6 weeks, Shane van Gisbergen could go into the playoffs as the number 1 seed. As it is right now with these bonus points that he's already accumulated, I think he can find a way to get through the round of 16. You survive Darlington with a top 20, you get through St. Louis, which possibility for a top 15 there, and survive the short track, all of a sudden you're in the round of 12, which has the Roval in it. So there is a good chance that I see a pathway for SVG to the round of 8, Jeff.
And speaking of 12, there's only 12 drivers with a win, and it's really kind of interesting, again, to see SVG up there in P3, basically 3 wins, 17 playoff points, like I mentioned a minute ago. He's only 5 points away from Kyle Larson. I mean, he could go in there. Other than Christopher Bell, no one else has got more wins than those 4 drivers. So it's gonna get really interesting in these last few races that we've got going on. I think Tyler Reddick's in a pretty good spot. He's plus 149. I think we'll see at least maybe 2 drivers make it in on points. Not positive about that, but if anyone does make it in, it's definitely going to be Tyler Reddick.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. He's definitely been the better car over in that camp. But I don't know. I love Dover too. I was at Dover last year. I seen Denny Hamlin win. We mentioned he's definitely an early favorite. I thought about picking him, but I feel like that's too obvious. I like to go back, like I say, every time and look at all the different finishes of the last 2 years. And there's a few drivers that come up a lot. Kyle Larson, obviously, you're saying maybe he doesn't win again, but I don't know. It's Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin we're talking about. I could see one of them definitely getting another win, and maybe keeping SVG in place there.
Hey, speaking of the 19 car, Martin Truex Jr. won there. Old Briscoe may have a little more luck coming up next week as well, so it'd be really cool to see. But yeah, you are right. Denny Hamlin did win last year. Kyle Larson took P2. Those are definitely good favorites overall for picks.
Yeah, you mentioned Truex won there, which was 2 years ago. We got to turn our attention to the Xfinity Series because his brother Ryan is going for three in a row here at the Xfinity Series in Dover. He's won the last two there, going for three this weekend. Obviously, those guys from Mayetta, New Jersey, so this is kind of a home race for them. So I'm sure the Truexes are going to be out there in full support for the Xfinity race this weekend. That's tough to do, though, to go three in a row at your home track, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people rooting for him. On the Cup side, I think we've already kind of rattled off some early favorites there. I think Ross Chastain would be good to put in this conversation. Ryan Blaney, I think, is good to put in this conversation. I just don't know if I have the confidence in Kyle Larson right now. I mean, I hate to say it, but he hasn't been the same since the Indy 500 duo. So until I start to see some results out of him, I might pump the brakes. I rolled the dice on him and put him in my fantasy lineup in Sonoma, and we saw how that ended. So, this is the kind of race that I've saved guys for 2, 3 uses left, wherever you're at with fantasy picks. I say you go ahead and run them here at Dover, because then we're headed to a difficult racetrack in Indy after that.
Definitely. I'm not very good at fantasy. I don't think I've put my picks in the last few weeks. So, I could maybe get a comeback because I have a lot of drivers that have a lot of uses left. But I think, I don't want to go too early, but I originally, like I said, I had Hamlin as my pick going into this, my penciled in pick, but I think I'm gonna go Tyler Reddick. I feel like he's one of those drivers, kind of like Joey Logano, that when there's pressure, he just turns up. So I'm hoping, and I have a good feeling that Tyler Reddick is going to win at Dover.
I think Sky, I'm going with the number 11. I'm going with Denny Hamlin because I think it's a great track for him. He's always done really well there.
Well, you took my pick. I was definitely going to go with the 11 this weekend. And so I'll go. I'll keep it with Joe Gibbs, just being that we just got done talking about how fast these guys are. I don't think I'm ready to fully commit on Ty Gibbs as a win. I do think Ty is going to get a top 10, but I'm going to go with old C Bell. I think Christopher Bell goes out there, gets him another win, and declares himself as the actual number one seed front runner going into the playoffs.
Sibo's a really good pick. And that's someone that we always sleep on. Like, I feel like we don't always give him the credit he deserves. Like, we always talk about Kyle Larson and whatnot. But, I mean, Christopher Bell, he's just phenomenal, isn't he?
He's definitely one of the. He reminds me a lot of how Blaney ran a couple years ago when he won the championship. It was just quiet, consistent, racking up top fives, getting a win here and there. Not really ruffling feathers, not making storylines, not pissing anybody off. Seabell's. He's definitely a mature driver. It was great listening to him in the booth commentate the Xfinity race. It's been cool to see him kind of develop into a seasoned driver. And I think that he's got a huge future with Joe Gibbs Racing in that 20 car. He's got a great fan base, great sponsors, and yeah, why not? I think he goes out there and gives his teammate a run for the money there at Dover this weekend, Jeff.
Yeah, Christopher Bell, he's a good guy too. I've always liked his attitude. He's a great personality, so I think it's good. But yeah, unfortunately, it's time to turn the page.
On to Dover. And speaking of Denny Hamlin, he's going to be in the booth for the Xfinity race this weekend. So that'll be interesting. I've heard Denny do a lot of media interviews and podcasting, but I haven't really heard him call a race. So that should be pretty interesting. We got the ARCA Menard series out in Dover this weekend. And like I said, I'm going to root on Ryan Truex for his third win there. I think that'd be really cool for those guys and give the Truex family something to celebrate there a little bit. And we're on to Dover, if you can believe it, guys. After this, only 5 races to the playoffs, 6 including this weekend. So the time is marching on. Time is running out. 4 spots remain. Will we see a new winner this weekend? Will we see a repeat winner? Let us know. Follow us across the board on all social media at Mash the Gas Podcast. Be sure to follow Sky over there at NASCAR Sky. We will be back next Monday night to break down all of the action from Dover. And until then, y'all,
Smash the gas.